I've worked with like Nike, Orange, Compass Box Whiskey. They were one of my first freelance copywriting clients.
Hey everyone, this is Anirban here. I am here again with another episode of the email show. Today I have Oli Clifford. He is from Britain and he has been in this content space for over a decade. He has worked as a content marketer in the B2B space. He has also started his journey as an intern. Right now he is helping DTC brands and mostly he is working as an email marketer in the e-commerce space. So today we will learn everything about email marketing from his experience and how you can be an email marketer. So welcome to this podcast, Oli.
Yeah, really glad to be here, mate. Big thanks for the invite, and looking forward to chatting as well.
Awesome. So how did you get started as an email marketer, or what led you into email marketing?
Yeah, so my early career was basically as like in copywriting and content marketing. So yeah, I kind of basically finished university with an English degree and was like, damn, what am I going to do with this? Like, how am I going to put this to some good use? Found out about copywriting. So I was just like, right, okay, I want to find a way to get into that because, I knew I wanted some kind of like creative career. And then basically from wanting to be a copywriter, I quickly got into kind of like marketing agency land here in the UK, worked at a couple of agencies. And the second agency I worked at was a B2B content marketing agency called Tomorrow People, and they were like HubSpot partners and HubSpot specialists. So for like basically a long while, even though I didn't really know what email marketing was, I'd technically started doing it at that point. Like I was working on HubSpot landing pages and nurture sequences and things like that. But because I was a copywriter and I was working in a very siloed way, working in isolation, I didn't really see anything outside of the Google Docs I was working on, and I was working at like a really insane volume. So I would just be banging out emails, banging out landing pages, and then getting it sent off. I didn't really understand the full journey at that time when it comes to marketing, like the kind of inbound journey. I also didn't really care either, to be completely honest. I just cared about like I wanted a job that involved writing, and that was one that involved it. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then eventually, after a few agency jobs, a few in-house jobs, I went freelance as a copywriter in 2020. And I just got a bit too stressed and burned out managing lots of little jobs for lots of clients. And I wanted to deliver a higher value service, something higher impact, where I could work in a closer way, in a more impactful way with a smaller number of clients on an ongoing basis. And yeah, eventually like kind of came back round to email marketing, and that's kind of where the journey's gone from there. So yeah, that's like a little whistle stop tour of how I've got to where I am now.
So are you a solopreneur or are you working with your team?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a in between, really. Like I would say I have been a solopreneur up until like the past. I mean, I don't know how I feel about that term, but yeah, solo business owner until like the last year or so, and then I've slowly started working with other people, but not in like I don't have any permanent hires, so I'm somewhere between I'd say like a solo business owner and like a micro agency. I'd say I'm kind of somewhere in that kind of gray area where I do have like, an assistant who helps me day to day with stuff. And then I have other freelancers, like really talented people who I work with on kind of like a project by project basis, just because I've learned through experience, particularly because my niche and the clients I serve are in the e-commerce space. And so email marketing for those guys, using Klaviyo and things like that, there's so many hats to wear. There's like strategy, the copy, design, implementation, QA, all these different things. And I have done bits of all of them. And I just found I got to a point where I was like, if I try wear all the hats here, I know I'm not going to be delivering, like somewhere I'm going to be falling down and not delivering to the best of my ability. So yeah, I'm slowly trying to get to that point where I can like build out more processes, and it doesn't have to be me doing everything. Because when I was a freelancer, I thought it was super important that it's like, oh, I'm the talent here. The business is me. People are buying into me, so I need to do everything. Whereas now I'm a bit less attached to that, and I'm a bit more like, actually, I can teach people to do quite a lot of stuff as long as I have a good enough understanding of what good looks like in that particular area. So like I know what a good strategy looks like, I know what good copy looks like, I know what good design looks like. So yeah, I'm slowly getting to the point where I am building out those processes and kind of building up my little black book of people I can work with on different projects. So yeah. So short answer is somewhere between solo business owner and like a micro agency.
Awesome. So why did you choose DTC instead of SaaS or info products?
Yeah, really good question. It was a very recent move. So I think it's only in the past year that I've decided, right, I'm literally just going to work with e-commerce and direct consumer brands, however it is people want to refer to them. I just think when it comes to products, I find it easier to get excited about them and emotionally invested in them. And generally speaking, I feel like I know a strategy that's going to work. And when it comes to B2B and so other sectors I've worked in and other clients I've worked for example, I've worked with so last year in 2024, I worked with a FinTech in Estonia, a roofing contractor in Warrington, which is in the north of England. I worked with, like a waxing salon and a kind of bodywork and massage studio and things like that. And things were just a bit kind of too varied. And also when it came to like B2B, for example, like email marketing is very effective for B2B, but ultimately it's kind of one small piece of a much wider content marketing strategy. Whereas when it comes to e-commerce and direct to consumer, you've kind of got, it's just there's two parts to it really. Like I'm dumbing it down a bit, but broadly speaking, there's, your acquisition, you've got to acquire customers, and then there's retention where it's like, right, we've got to turn that first time buyer into a repeat buyer, turn one purchase into two to three to four and create loyal customers that way. So yeah, it just kind of ticked a few boxes in terms of, I kind of enjoyed the clients I worked with. I enjoyed working with brands. Felt like it's easier to get my head around like a physical product as well. Like I can see what it does. I can see what the benefit is. Normally I only have to watch like an Instagram reel or a TikTok or a YouTube short and I kind of get what I'm selling. Whereas with B2B and SaaS, sometimes I'd work with clients and I wouldn't it'd take a lot of time for me to get my head around things, or I'd have to ask the client questions over and over again. And I'm impatient at the end of the day and I like to be efficient and move fast. So felt like with e-commerce, it kind of allowed me to do that.
So as you have worked in the B2B space, you have worked as a content editor, content marketer in the past. So do
Yeah.
you think it helps you right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think all my kind of previous experience has helped me write to just a bunch of different tones and purposes, and being able to write long copy versus short copy. And also, broadly speaking, just understanding like human psychology and why it is we make decisions, why we buy things, and just kind of understanding, like, to be fair, being a freelancer and running my own business, I think has made me a better marketer in every way possible as well, because you're actually, you're not just writing copy and designing funnels and things like that. Like you're actually literally getting on calls with people, and I'm not quite in the flesh in my case because I'll be online and on calls and on Google Meets and things like that, but you're really seeing every little facet of the sales process from end to end. So yeah, I think kind of all my previous experience really has helped with that. But yeah, having like a variety of experiences definitely helped. I think in terms of like producing content ideas, I think that's something a lot of brands struggle with, like content ideation. They find it quite overwhelming and don't really know, where to start. But I've been doing content for such a long time across so many different industries that it's kind of just like it's like second nature, and I'm pretty good at, I think, coming up with stuff and not overthinking it. So it's like I can get someone's content calendar filled out pretty quick without it feeling like too stressful a job.
So as you have an experience of over a decade now, and you have worked both in the content marketing space as well as in the email space under
Yeah.
the roof of digital marketing. So what is one email trend you think is overrated?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think generally, I don't know if there's like a particular trend that's over it. I mean, the only trend at the moment is like people throwing around the word AI, but I don't think AI is overrated. I think what's happening is people are just putting the word AI in front of things because they know it's kind of like the buzzword of the day. But yeah, I think anything that involves like basically, because at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing and testing new angles and finding content that works, emails that convert, things like that, you want to kind of apply. It's a smart thing to apply the principles of marketing that's worked in the past, but there's a difference, in my opinion, between applying the principles of things that have worked and just kind of copying like something that's a bit of a cheap trick kind of outright. And I think in email marketing, there's a lot of that, particularly in the D2C space where people are busy, they're short on time, they need to just get things done. So sometimes that means there's like people are throwing out emails without a lot of imagination. So for example, there's stuff like pretending that you're putting out a discount to your customers and you're pretending it's like a leaked staff discount. And don't get me wrong, things like this do work, but if every single brand is doing it, what happens is that methodology is basically going to die out, like it's going to expire. It might be working now, but it's very quickly going to stop working in maybe as little as like a year, because every brand's going to cotton onto it and every brand's going to start doing it. It's a bit like in the cold email world, one of the most effective subject lines for a cold email. So this is like, lead generation. You're reaching out to the CEO of a business and you've never spoken to them before and you want to pitch to them. One of the most effective subject lines ever used to be quick question. So I think this will have been maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. Now it's really ineffective a lot of the time. And a lot of founders and CEOs and decision makers in businesses actively have filters on their inbox that will take any email that says quick question in the subject line and just throw it straight into their spam folder, because it's been overused, it's been overdone, it's been, cooked, as the kids say these days, right? Like that method used to work and now it doesn't. So I think there's kind of a general theme when it comes to trends. Any email trend really is like, rather than copying it outright, I think any email trend is overrated if we're not analyzing the principles that make it work, and instead we're just going to copy it outright. And it's important to have a bit of imagination. I think that's especially important in the AI era as well, and that's something we've got to be conscious of and not lose hold of.
So as you have worked in the content marketing space and email marketing space, you have encountered a lot of clients, right? So
Yeah.
according to you, what are the top 3 red flags when you work with a client?
Top 3 red flags. That's a really good question. Yeah, I think you've kind of got to trust someone to do their job. I think obsessing over like really minor details, and it's not that like minor details don't matter, but what I mean is like low leverage details, right? So stressing over things like, I don't know, whether you should use an Oxford comma or not in an email, like it's like that really isn't going to make a difference to how much revenue that pulls in. I can't think of any financial decision I've made that has been influenced whatsoever by the use of an Oxford comma or the use of an N dash over an M dash. Like, I think sometimes people, particularly in like larger organizations in middle management and stuff, kind of, I don't know whether it's like they don't have enough to do or they just seem to be spread over too many things. But yeah, that's definitely a big red flag for me, is just kind of obsessing over details and also stopping things going out over details that don't matter. So it's like, we could be signing off this email right now and moving on to the next batch, but because we're having a back and forth over this completely minor, grammatical thing, then that's kind of slowing the whole process down. I'd stop myself from swearing there. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast or no? I'm trying to be good.
All right. Awesome. So, as you have worked with the clients, I mean, big brands and all, so can you please talk about some of your clients, and if you can talk that any of your campaign which didn't go well?
Yeah. So this isn't actually for a client, but I think it's like a good thing to bring up because it was a big learning curve for me. But basically, one thing I did that didn't go well was my very first welcome sequence, which I wrote for my own list. So basically, I spent like, I was kind of making that transition between like a copywriter and an email marketer, but I didn't really know what an email marketing business looked like. I didn't know what an email marketing offer looked like. I didn't know who were ideal clients for email marketing. I just knew I wanted to get from freelance copywriter to freelance email marketing strategist. I was kind of figuring out the bits in between. So I did a welcome sequence. Like, I'd read this course about email copywriting. I'd like had these templates for welcome sequences and all these ideas. So I wrote my own welcome sequence and I made it like really like packed with personality, really well written, all these great things that I thought were great points. And I spent ages on it and I tried to make it this literary masterpiece. And all I got was a bunch of copywriters subscribing to it and telling me that they loved it. And then I got absolutely zero sales. So that was kind of an important learning curve from me, and definitely something that didn't get any results because, I realized that copy without strategy is pointless, and it's a tough lesson to learn. And especially when you're someone that prides themselves on being a good copywriter and being good at what they do. And I was building up a bit of an audience at the time. So I'd never told anyone at the time that I'd written this welcome sequence, and it had gotten me zero sales, but that was it. But it just goes to show, I think it's important that copywriters shouldn't work in silos, especially not now when, things are as saturated as they are. So, that's definitely an example of something that didn't go well.
Yeah. So, can you please talk about or share some of the brands you have worked with?
Yeah, sure. So I guess there's a real mix, and there's some I'll have to edit in my head because there's some I'm under NDA and can't mention, but then there's some I can. So I guess like from previous agency roles, I've worked with like Nike, Orange, who else? Compass Box Whiskey, they were one of my first freelance copywriting clients, and I wrote emails for them, so they were always a joy to work with. Worldpay, Get Here, and Gorillas, who are ultra fast grocery delivery brands. And then more recently, I've worked with kind of independent brands in the pet niche. So one in particular working with who's selling cat toys. Garment maker. So they sell like fabrics to dressmakers and garment makers. That's another client I'm working with at the moment. And also working with a luxury e-commerce client who are really great, and they're based up in Newcastle. But I'm subcontracting for an agency on that one, so I can't really disclose any more details on that. But yeah, but the one thing I did realize is that like it's interesting being asked about which brands I've worked with, because I think one thing I've realized is just because a brand is big doesn't necessarily mean they're doing email marketing well, and it definitely doesn't mean they don't need help with their email marketing. And equally, a lot of brands that are like complete unknowns or ghosts, if you could ask someone walking down the street if they'd heard of them, and they'd say no, but they can be absolutely crushing it with their email marketing regardless of list size and brand equity and all that stuff. So yeah.
So as you have talked about this brand, like there are so many people who actually dream of working in this kind of brands. So when you are working as an email marketer, do they ask you to take ownership of your work, or do they micromanage?
Generally speaking, yeah, they all let me take complete ownership of my work, and they normally just trust for me to do what I'm going to do. I definitely find that dynamic is different now. I am working as a strategist rather than someone that just delivers words on a page. I found when I was a copywriter, I wouldn't say I was micromanaged, definitely, especially not as a freelancer, but I would say I would be having conversations and back and forth about stuff that I look back on now and I just kind of cringe at. And I'm just like, none of that stuff really mattered that much. Like what really happened, like what really matters to me now is that I'm helping make an impact on a client's business, and I'm helping them generate more revenue and turn more first-time purchases into second-time purchases and things like that. So yeah, there's definitely a difference there. And I definitely think my advice to any freelancers is, if you want to charge more money, work with fewer people, do more challenging and fulfilling work, I would definitely try and kind of like graduate to be a strategist rather than just someone who's waiting to be told what to do. But I think that, yeah, if you come in as a strategist, the relationship's just different from the very beginning. You're kind of like on a par with the client. You're an equal with the client. You are just handling a part of their business that they don't have the time, capacity, or experience to handle themselves. So yeah, so at the moment, definitely don't feel micromanaged in any way, which is really nice. And yeah, I feel like I've got some really solid clients and good relationships with them too.
That's a good thing as an service provider, to be honest, because we
Yeah.
mostly get micromanaged from the people we are working with, especially when it comes to the really big brands. They care about a lot of things because their reputation matters a lot, so they actually cares a lot about this kind of thing. So as you have written emails, managed emails, and also what are the tools you have actually used in your email marketing campaign for yourself or for your clients?
Yeah, so I pretty much live in Klaviyo and Shopify as well. Obviously, as I've niched into like DTC brands, e-commerce brands. To be honest, I don't really try and get too overly excited about third-party tools. I like to keep things simple and efficient and have as few moving parts as possible, because I just think that allows us to get more work done and to move faster and to not get. I find you can get a bit caught up in all these different tools and different platforms, and each one is a different thing you've got to manage. It's another thing that's going to potentially spin out your reporting or make it harder for your reporting to work. It's also something that usually comes with a cost of some kind, if like to the client as well. So there's always like pitching that. So yeah, generally speaking, I do like to keep things quite simplistic. So for example, if I'm trying to survey, I always put like surveys in my flows, whether it's abandonment flows, welcome flows. Always ask a question to the subscriber to try and, like, if they haven't bought, for example, to try and figure out why that is, so then we can use that information to kind of strengthen our funnel and improve the performance of emails going forward. But where I can, I will always try and just ask subscribers to reply or have like a one-click survey. So in Klaviyo, you can use custom properties to have it. So you create links, and then when they click a link, it puts a property on their profile in Klaviyo. So let's say it was like, Oli didn't buy this watch because he thought it was too expensive, right? And then so you're up, and then I've gone through an abandoned checkout flow. I've still not bought the watch, but I get an email at the end of the flow saying, "Hey, Oli, we noticed you were looking at this watch, but you didn't buy in the end. That's absolutely fine, but do you mind just telling us why? Just because it really helps us." And if I like the brand, I might click on that survey, and I could say, like, didn't buy because the watch was too expensive, or I didn't buy because it didn't have the dial color I wanted or whatever. And that can really help you understand your customers. And or I could put like I was just browsing, can really help you understand your customers and what's going through their heads and what the story is behind the metrics in your ESP. But yeah, to come back to your like actual question, when it comes to tools, I like to just use my ESP itself. And if we do have to use like some kind of app integration here or there, then obviously I'll do it. Like I'm working with a pet brand at the moment, and we've got a quiz going out and basically asking like how good a cat parent are you, and it kind of like tests their knowledge, and then based on their answer to the quiz, we make some product recommendations. But yeah, that's like a separate Shopify app that we've used, and we've had to set all that up and stuff. So it's one of those things. I hope it proves fruitful, and I hope the customers enjoy using it. But it's one of those things where I think if I can get away with just doing the content, creating the emails in the ESP, and getting clicks and opens and sales that way, then I'm happy to do that.
So as you know, the year 2025 is the year of newsletters. There are so many people who are actually shifting from info business or service based business to media businesses because it's getting in a different route altogether. Because after the arrival of AI, it's actually eating up a lot of jobs as well as the whole dynamics has been changed. So that's why there are so many people who are actually moving to media business where the human touch is more, the interactions are more. So how do you see newsletters? Like what are the things makes a great newsletter, or how do you think a newsletter should be, and what are the things anyone should do if they're building a newsletter business?
Man, I'm probably not the best person to ask about this because, yeah, I'm not really the whole world of like Substack, Beehive. I've seen they're really making a comeback in recent months. You're absolutely right. But yeah, I've not really built a successful newsletter business. So I don't know if I'm the right person to ask that question. Generally speaking, like in terms of what I subscribe to, things I've paid for, I subscribed to Stephanie Lauer's newsletter. I think Lauer's how you pronounce her surname. I really enjoyed that, and I paid to subscribe for that because she had really proven experience. Like the proof was in the pudding. You could see that she could deliver on the things she was claiming to deliver. She had a really unique perspective and was giving advice that other people weren't giving. It was really well written. It was really engaging, and I kind of enjoyed. Like it's the kind of thing I'd look forward to getting in my inbox, and I'd always try and read through the whole thing. And it was a bit like almost a bit of fun as well as something that's kind of teaching me about the nature of sales and inbound lead generation, stuff like that. So yeah, those were kind of, I guess, all those bullet points I just sort of rattled off there, I'd say were all good things for a newsletter. Yeah, I think just try and solve people's problems and respect their attention, I guess. That would be the main things, like deliver value, keep it engaging, and stick with it as well. I guess the one thing a problem I don't know about paid newsletter subscriptions is I'm presuming churn's a pretty big thing. Like people subscribe at first, then 3 months later they're going to get bored. So I guess maybe you don't have the same privilege of being able to say the same thing over and over again. I'm not sure. I guess you have to ask someone who's kind of killing it on that front. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting time though.
So what is one mindset that helps you succeed with email?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think shrugging off my perfectionism has really helped me succeed with email. So just remembering that done is better than perfect. And there's a guy who I follow on LinkedIn. He's head of copywriting at an agency called Magnet Monster. His name's Eric Wall, I believe. And I saw him share a post where he said he's gone from being like, is it perfect, to is it good enough to test? Like when it comes to the copy, the design, the structure of the email, whatever. All it needs to be is good enough to test. And I really like that. And I think that's definitely helped me kind of like move a bit faster and be a bit less attached because I'm an artsy fartsy guy. Like I did an English degree, like I used to want to do like music and stuff like that. I've very much got like a creative's mindset, I think. But the problem that comes with that is wanting to be a bit of a perfectionist and treat everything like a piece of art. And you've got to remember you're not an artist, you're a marketer. Do the art in your spare time. When you're doing marketing, stick to what needs to be done for the marketing. So yeah, short answer is done is better than perfect. I think can be one of the best mindset things for sure.
Awesome. So if you can tell, or if you can suggest one piece of advice to the people who are trying to be an email marketer, what it would be?
Trying to be an email marketer. Yeah, that's a really good question. So I guess be obsessed with like just getting results for your clients and figuring out how you can be the person that delivers results. Like so many people out there aren't good at what they do, and so many people out there just don't put the effort in to deliver a good client experience. I say this where I think like those are two things I try really hard at, but I'm constantly trying to get better at. Like I'm constantly thinking, how can I be better at communicating? How can I make the client's life easier? How can I make the onboarding experience more rewarding and more exciting and stuff like that? But it's taken me time to get there. But yeah, I think these are things that are really, really worthwhile. But yeah, I just think be obsessed with results. Like at the end of the day, like I think there's a lot of bad advice out there about getting clients and building a business. Like ultimately, when it comes down to it, 90% of businesses work with marketers because they want to make money and they want to make sales. Like that's it. It's not very exciting, but it's true. Like, and people tell you all these other things about you need to step into your power and all this stuff about the law of attraction, stuff like that. And it's just like, learn how to make people money. That's the best advice I can give. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of work and it's a lot of banging your head against the wall. But yeah, that's one. Sorry, I keep having like going off on tangents here. But another thing I'd say that I've only really learned in like the past year is I think it's good when clients come to you, but I also think for people building a business, a lot of people talk down on like pitching and reaching out to clients. And I hate that, to be honest, because I think people that complain about getting outreach messages normally have either never sent one or they're in a very privileged position where they haven't sent one in years and they'd forgotten what it was like when they were struggling and they needed proof and case studies and results and evidence that they could deliver ROI before they started asking people for thousands of pounds. So yeah, I think there's a lot of power in reaching out to other clients. Like essentially you are picking your ideal client rather than, being like, oh, this one person's messaged me this month and I'm not sure about their website and I'm not sure about their product, but hey, they've reached out to me and no one else is reaching out to me. So I guess I should sell them my thing. I actually think outreach in a way can be quite an empowering thing where you can write a list of like 50, 100 brands that you would absolutely love to work with. You'd be excited to work with every single day and you can reach out to them and, maybe 5-10% of them will be willing to have a conversation with you. And I think that's amazing. Like that's a great thing. So yeah, I'd say reach out to big brands and pick winning horses as well. Like pick brands that you think you can get an actual result for and that have a product that is already selling, because email marketing doesn't generate sales. It doesn't make sales come out of nowhere. It multiplies sales that are already happening. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And I think when you're a freelancer, you don't realize that. I definitely didn't. It took me a long time to realize that I'd built a bunch of flows or written a bunch of email copy for someone and it wasn't selling and I thought it was because I was rubbish. And it's like, no, I started working with this brand or this business at the wrong time in their journey and they didn't need to work with me, but they reached out to me for whatever reason. Again, that's one of the things where I think where I think sometimes personal brand can be a bad thing. I used to have it where people would, at one point I tried niching and doing email marketing for coaches. And I started getting, quite a decent amount of inbound leads, but it would always be people who the problems they had with their business went way beyond email marketing and they just wanted someone to help them. And I was like, look, I know you need help, but you need help that goes beyond email marketing. It's not, email isn't going to fix all these problems you have. You've got, you need it's the problem with your product, your service, proof of what you do, the way you position it, all these other things. So I was just like, I eventually came to the realization that it wasn't because I was rubbish. It was because I was working with the wrong people at the wrong time. So yeah, I feel like I just spitballed a mountain of stuff there, but hopefully there's something useful in there for people when they're listening.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing your learnings and value for the last half an hour. It is really so valuable. I really appreciate you for sharing your knowledge, because working in any industry for over a decade makes you an expert, because there is a rule that if you spend 4,000 hours in any craft, then you can call yourself as an expert. But I don't love the term expert, because we always learn something new, and especially when it comes to the AI age, we keep learning new things. And there are so many things like vibe coding. Like earlier, coding was a different kind of thing, but people are now making it vibe coding and a lot of things like love web app and all. So I'm done with all of the questions. And I have one last ask from you. If you have anything to offer to the audience, if you are building any course, cohort, or coaching calls, you can share with the audience.
Yeah, I currently am on LinkedIn, I'd say, and then yeah, I do offer every now and then power hours to people. I don't have any like lead magnets or freebies or free courses or anything, but if anyone ever just wants to get on the phone with me and pick my brain for an hour about email marketing, you're welcome to do that. You can go on my LinkedIn. If you type in Oli Clifford, email guy, might help it come up, or hopefully you guys can maybe like share a link in the podcast
Yeah, of
description.
course. Yeah.
But yeah, on my LinkedIn, there's a link to book a power hour with me. You can do that, or you can fill out an application form to work with me if you want me to like audit your brand and work with me that way. So
All right. So what you can do is like you can share with me the forms you have. I will put it in the description. And thanks for coming today. It was really amazing to talk with you and learn from you. Those people who are listening to this podcast, of course, they will get some amazing value. And if you want to learn about email marketing and if you want to pick Ollie's brain, make sure to check the description where you will be able to find the application link to work with him. And of course, his LinkedIn link will be there as well. So you can connect on LinkedIn. Thanks, Ollie, for coming today.
thanks a lot, man. Cheers. Look forward to speaking again.